Okay, we are continuing on our next speaker. We are continuing on with the marketing track, and we're going back to a different angle again. We're going back to stories, and we're going back to how you are pitching and how you are presenting, and what is this image of what you are selling to people. So our next speaker, our next keynote is a gentleman from America, from Utah. His name is Cameron Manwaring, and he's the co-founder of a consultancy, Sharebility. And they've been running from 2013 to present. And in that time, they have run, this is unbelievable, 150 different campaigns that have earned over 1 million views. So 150 separate campaigns that in some way or another have garnered over 1 million views in each campaign. That's a lot of views. So he was named to the Forbes 30 under 30 for his contributions to advertising and marketing. And he's a traveler, he's a father, he's an expert communicator, and we're very happy to have him up here. So to talk about how to make things go viral, nice topic. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mr. Cameron Manwaring.
Appreciate it. How's everyone doing? Okay, if anyone's there, feel free to grab a chair. It looks better in photos for me. So, how many people have seen this car by raise of hands? How many of people are lucky enough to know someone who has owned this car? Okay, this is my dream car. This is the Lada Niva 4x4. About 3 years ago, I visited Moldova for the first time, and I saw these cars driving all around, and I said, one day, I will own this car. So if you have a dream car, just know that it's within reach, especially if it's the Lada Niva. I've traveled around a lot. I've been to Finland, Norway, Sweden a lot. I had a client was Happy Socks, and so I was in Stockholm quite a bit. But this was actually 2 years ago in Latvia, in Sigulda, actually pretty close to here. I did 2 weeks, 3 weeks of timber framing and log building workshops, learning how to build with traditional tools. And so, very similar to Estonian heritage. I've been more excited being in Estonia, seeing all of the wood smoke saunas and the cabins and the houses than anything else. So question, why am I here? I've been asked to share a bit about my story and how I started my company and some things, but I've also been asked to teach everyone here how to make things go viral in less than 30 minutes. So, we should get started. I served a service mission for my church back in 2008, 2009 for 2 years. I was in Toronto, Canada, and for that mission, that was something that was volunteer and I paid my own way. So I had saved up a lot during high school and in my youth because this was something I wanted to do. It was about $10,000 to provide for myself for those 2 years. So when I got back in 2011, I literally had no money. So I needed to figure out and get a job. So I was on my way to go and interview at a restaurant because I had some friends whose parents owned the restaurant. I thought, okay, I'll probably be able to get this job. But for some reason, it just didn't feel quite right. I was on my way, and I pulled off to the side of the road, and nothing was feeling good about it. And so I decided to turn around. I drove home. But the only problem was that I didn't have a job. I still didn't have any money. And in fact, I only had about $200 at the time. And so I was needing to earn money for university and just for living and food and whatever else. And so with that $200, I decided, well, what am I going to do now? So I decided to go to the hardware store, and I bought a bucket and some rags and some brushes, and I started doing window washing. So I started going door to door and knocking on people's houses and asking them if they needed their windows washed. And at first it was a little bit slow, but very soon, about 4 months later, by the end of that summer, I had 6 employees working for me, mostly friends, and we were doing about 200 different accounts in southern Utah where I was living. So this was great. I was actually earning some good money. I was earning thousands per month. I was learning about sales, marketing, providing a quality service, management. You know, this was essentially my first business that I ever started. And so that was great. The one thing is I am addicted to travel. he mentioned that I've been to a little over 60 countries at this point, but at the time, I just got in this bad habit where I would go make enough money from window washing to go on a trip somewhere, and then I'd run out of money, and then I'd come home and wash some windows, and then keep doing this. So this kept happening until finally it was time for me to go to university. So I understand here real quick, by raise of hands, how many people here are currently in university? Okay, so maybe about half. How many people were in university in the last 5 years? Okay. So I was getting ready to go to university. I didn't have any money. And this is one thing I bring up, and I think it's important here, is because last year I lived in Moldova for 3 months with my wife. And I visited many times. And one thing in Moldova that I found can be similar in this country from people I've spoken to is they say, well, this is all good, but you live in the States. Well, this is all good, but you have money. No, it's not true. The opportunity can happen for anyone if you work hard enough and if you're willing to do this. And so if you're in university and you don't know what you're doing and you don't have any money, it's fine. You can make things work. So here I was at university. I was actually so poor at the time when I finally went to university, I didn't have enough money to be able to buy a simple housing contract. So I didn't have a place that I could sleep. I called my cousin. I asked him if he would split rent with me. So we put his bed up on a dresser and some cement blocks. That's me there. This was where I lived for 2 years. That bag was my closet. I had to do this to be able to just afford to go to university. I remember my last semester of university before I left, I had 96 packets of top ramen noodles, was what I ate mostly. But sometimes, and this is kind of embarrassing, but sometimes I was so hungry and didn't have enough money for top ramen noodles that I would actually get my suitcase. I would put on a suit like I was going to church, and then I would go and find a hotel that was nearby. I would walk in like I was one of the guests, and I would go to the breakfast. I would eat as much as I could, put some of the cereal boxes in my suitcase, and then go back home. So I don't recommend this. I'm not very proud of it, but you know, when you're an entrepreneur, you're resourceful. You figure things out, right? So here I was at university. I was taking some business classes. I was taking some different things, but I was mostly just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I really didn't know yet. And so one day for fun, I was on Facebook and I saw this event. And this event said we're going to do this big human slingshot slip and slide. I said, okay, this sounds interesting. So I drove with some friends about 2 hours north in northern Utah and went and participated in this event that was a video for YouTube. It was a YouTuber whose name was Devin Graham, known as Devin Supertramp. And here was a clip from that day. This is me going off the ramp. So I was just having fun. He said, who's ready to go? I said, I'm ready. He said, what are you going to do? I said, I think I'll do a triple front flip. He said, have you ever done a triple front flip? I said, no. Who's even done this? And I thought it out in my mind, and I just did it, so it was good. So this was just for fun. They released this video. It did really well. It was actually an advertisement for a clothing company, and it was interesting. It didn't almost have anything to do with the clothing. Yet the video launched and they sold out of every piece of clothing that they had and even had to start making more. So something started turning in my mind, but again, this was just for fun. Well, a few months later, I think the guy knew that I was down to do anything. And so he said, hey, I need some help filming a video. We're going to be down in a place called Moab, Utah. And we're filming at this arch called Corona Arch. We're doing this big rope swing. And I said, sure, I'll go. So I went down, we woke up about 4 in the morning, and I drove all the way down and back with him, and I sat in the passenger seat, and we talked the whole time. Here's a clip from that video. Get the volume up a little bit more for us. Here we go.
All right, kick back, relax, and grab yourself a beverage. A hop if you want to just bounce to my leverage. The evidence, as they say, is in the pudding. So show me the money like my name is Cuban.
Has anyone seen this? Question? A few people. So I was just helping film this video, like I said, but I also do participate. I'll show you this one, a little embarrassing, but it was fun. If you don't speak English fluently, and you didn't understand that, it's because that wasn't English, so don't worry. So here I was down at this video, and again, we rode all the way down and back, and I had all these thoughts, and I remember saying, Devin, to me it makes sense that if you did this, this, and this, that you would get more views maybe, or if you did this, this, and this, you'd get more subscribers, or more articles, or more whatever, and we were just talking, and I was kind of figuring things out, and he said, it does make sense. And so I had this idea on how to market the video, and I didn't ask for permission. I wasn't there to get paid, but I was in the video, and I thought it was fun, and I helped with it, and so I just started kind of guerrilla marketing this video on my own, and it started working. I ended up getting a hold of Red Bull. I got a hold of MSN. I got a hold of Good Morning America, and all these places started posting the video. It was a really good video, but the marketing was working, and enough so that 1 week later, I got a phone call from Devin. And he said, I don't know why I'm feeling this way, but I've had this feeling, and I want to ask if you would come and be my manager. And I said, I have no idea what it means to be the manager of a YouTuber. I said, but let's try. I'll do it. So I was introduced to this magical world of YouTube. At the time, I really was just sitting down and looking at videos. I was looking at different videos and different channels and saying, why is this one getting more views than this one? Why is this one getting more dislikes than this one? Why is this one getting more comments but less subscribers? I just started figuring out and comparing, and so that's really how I started. A lot of people assume this is when I kind of started into, wow, now you're making money, you're on this YouTube, and everyone makes money on YouTube. Back in 2011, 2012, when I was starting this, that was not the case. I was taking just a small percentage of revenue from the ad revenue on Google. And for the first year, I tallied up all the hours that I worked for Devin, and I was making about 17 cents per hour. So that's not a very good wage. So I had to figure out, okay, well, I'm doing this stuff, and I really know how, but I need to have someone that's paying. And so I found this company called Clearplex. They made screen protectors for your phone. The little piece of plastic or glass you put on the front so it doesn't crack. They said, we have $500. We want you to make us a viral video. I said, amazing. That was more money than I had. So I came up with the idea. I shot the video. I edited the video. I produced the video. I marketed the video. I came up with this idea to get an old grandma that could shoot a shotgun. And we had her actually, we'd throw the phone in the air, and then she would shoot. And one of them had the screen protector and one didn't. And believe it or not, the one with the screen protector actually held up. It didn't crack the screen. It was amazing. We launched the video. It got over 300,000 views in the first 2 days, over 2,500 articles that were written about the video. Their sales went up 500% and maintained, and their website crashed, I think 2 or 3 times just from the sales that were coming in. This was a company that was selling maybe $1,000 to $2,000 of product every month. And after this video, I think actually just last year, they were acquired in a multi-million-dollar acquisition. And a lot of it started from some of this progress. The big thing, though, that really stood out to me was that at the time, this video on Adweek, they had their top 100 most shared advertisements globally. And on Adweek, this one was at number 4, right in between Coca-Cola at number 3 and Audi at number 5. And so I really knew that there was something here. I knew that if for $500, but with the right strategy and with the right understanding of why people share things, that we were able to compete with companies like Coca-Cola and Audi with their $1 million budgets. So I started to get noticed. By this time, I had done about 70 videos with Devin, and we had grown his channel from maybe 30,000, 40,000 subscribers into the millions. And I got approached from an advertising agency called Crispin Porter Bogusky, and they wanted me to come on and be the social media director for 2 brands, Microsoft and Bing. They offered me a really big salary. It was something where starting out, I was going to be getting paid very, very well. They wanted me to move to Los Angeles, start up everything there, and run this. But just like going to that restaurant, something didn't quite feel right. I just didn't know, but I really felt like maybe there was something else I should be doing and I should pursue it, and so I decided to pursue my own company. It also didn't help that I did like Apple and Google more, and so I decided not to job. I still didn't have very much money. I had $500 from that other video, And so I set up a little home office. I actually didn't have enough to get a desk, so I built my own desk. And then things started happening. I started hustling, and some people had heard about stuff. How many people have known about Shark Tank? Okay. So Barbara Corcoran, one of the ladies on Shark Tank, she had a company that she had invested in called Cousin's Maine Lobster. And they were based in Los Angeles, a food truck. They gave me $1,800 to come and train them on how to make their company a little more viral. I thought I was on top of the world. Well, make it even better, they introduced me to this guy named Chad Future. He was a white guy from Detroit, Michigan, that wanted to be a Korean hip-hop artist, do K-pop. Here's a little clip of that. Okay, he's really weird. So, but he paid me $2,000 to come and train his company, and at the time I was doing anything I could. Well, it led to some things, and it was important that I was taking these opportunities, whatever they were. I ended up meeting his manager, who was a Hollywood producer. He had worked on a lot of big movies like Borat, Meet the Fockers, Meet the Parents, Austin Powers. But one thing he had never done is been nominated for an Academy Award. And he was working on this documentary called The Lady in Number 6. It was about the oldest living Holocaust survivor. She was 110 years old, and she credited a lot of her being able to survive World War II to music. She was in the concentration camps, and it was really an emotional, impressive story. But the documentary itself was a little boring. It was kind of BBC style with, photos and so on. He said, the story's good, the film is good, but we're not getting the attention we need. So we went ahead and created a short, kind of, more viral commercial or advertisement for it. And it ended up getting over 100 times more reach than all the other documentaries in the category combined. We did get nominated for the Academy Award. And then shortly after
and the Oscar
this
goes
happened.
The Lady in Number 6, Music Saved My Life, Malcolm Clark and Nicholas Reed.
So that was pretty cool. So yeah, won an Oscar from YouTube. How about that? So this, on the left was Nick. He introduced me to Tim, and they said, look, if after 20 years of doing Hollywood, and YouTube video was the first thing that helped us win an Oscar, I think there's something we should do here together. So they asked if I would like to form a company together. I sold a portion of my company to these two partners. We started doing stuff, and it was a really good partnership. Things were working really well. But one thing that never changed was that, we tried to do things more frugal. In fact, they said, here's some money, let's going to rent an office and do all this. We want you to move to Los Angeles and leave your team behind. We'll get you a house. We'll have you. And I said, no, I'm going to stay in Utah. I'm going to keep the 2-3 guys that I've been working with this whole time, and we'll do things cheaper. Don't give me as much pay, but I'll spread it out to these. And they said, okay, your choice. Best decision I made. We built our conference table, once again, just trying to be, thrifty. And so kind of a, long story short, we started as Consulting Virality. We changed the name to Contagious. A company in the UK did a marketing magazine called Contagious, and they threatened to sue us for trademark because we were getting more attention than they were, and they were jealous. So instead of a $100,000 fee, we decided to change the name to Sharebility. And since then, and this is jumping over a lot, but we did over 1 billion organic views on YouTube for different brands around the world, brands like Pepsi and Cristiano Ronaldo and Freshpet and Happy Socks and ESPN and lots of others. We did over 150 videos with at least 1 million views plus, over 50 videos that made the front page of YouTube. We did over 60,000 articles that were written organically. These are not PR paid articles. These were people that saw our videos and selfishly wrote about it because they knew their article would get more views and more readers if they had our video in it. And we had major growth for clients, tens of millions of dollars for brands all around the world. So what did I learn? Got a short amount of time, and I wish we could spend all day, but I learned a lot in terms of what not to do and what to do, but mostly I learned about people. So I chose YouTube as a platform in terms of understanding things because it was the biggest player at the time, and it was something that we could repeat and do very quickly. But I learned that most companies do what I call cattle branding. How many people know what cattle branding is? Okay, not many. So cattle branding, it's very popular in the United States and Australia and a couple of places, but take all the cows, a farmer would gather all his cows and then they'd corral them one by one, and then the farmers will actually hold the cow on the ground and they get a very hot piece of iron, put it in the fire, and then they actually burn the logo of the farm onto the cow, saying this cow belongs to me. A lot of companies do their marketing and their branding this way, the same way of cattle branding. They'll create something that's just good or maybe great, but not shareable. And what they'll do is they'll buy as many eyeballs as they possibly can, and then they force every one of us through some corral, hold us down, and they say, here's our company, here's our logo, here's our brand, our product, buy, me, us. And we hate it. We absolutely hate it. Here's a short clip, and this will probably look familiar.
Real love is giving him real tasty food. But some leading dog foods add sugar, or dyes, or artificial preservatives. But So Good from Iams has 100% wholesome ingredients and nothing else. So Good from Iams.
Okay, by raise of hands, how many people would skip that commercial as soon as you possibly could if you're on YouTube? How many people skip a commercial as soon as you possibly can, anytime you can? Right? Commercials, they're awful. What's happening is that we used to be able to buy people's attention, but now we can't buy people's attention. More than ever, we need to earn it. A big part of this is because of what's called tolerance. Our tolerance is building up and growing more than ever. Tolerance, it's a state in which an organism no longer responds to a drug. So what has to happen? You have to up the dose to get the same effect. Let's say you have to take painkillers because you hurt your leg. If you get addicted to painkillers and you keep taking them, well, all of a sudden you have to up the dose of painkillers to have the same effect. So what's happening is companies are creating good or even great commercials, advertisements, marketing, but then they're having to continually up the spend. They have to pay more and more and more and more money just to get the same attention from us. And so we're not doing that. Now, we watched that one pet food commercial. Here's a commercial that we did for a pet food company as well. And look at the difference a little bit here. That's my dog, the black one. I'm going to end it a little early because I'm looking at the time. I'm sorry. How many people would skip that video? If you raise your hand, I'll find you. That was an advertisement. And the day before we released that video, it was midnight, and the CEO called me on the phone, and he said, we're considering pulling the video. We're not going to release it. And I said, why? And I answered some of his questions, and we talked, and he said, we're worried that there's not enough logo in the video. We're worried that there's not enough images of the product, and that people aren't going to know that it's our company that did it. I said, okay, those are valid concerns, but we talked through it, and we answered his questions. That video, as an example, it did over 40 million views organically in the first week, had over 3,000 articles written about the product. Their website traffic went up 6,000%. And some distributors who saw the video with their family and their kids, they contacted Freshpet directly, and they were already hundreds of millions of dollars in their company. They contacted them directly, and they said, we want to introduce your product into over 3,500 new locations in our stores. It was a success. And so you don't always need the cattle brand to be able to get people to notice you or your product. This was one other video. I won't be able to show all of it, but I came up with an idea that Cristiano Ronaldo, we launched a product called Rock headphones together. I came up with the idea and went over to Spain to direct it. You'll see me in the beginning here helping him get ready, but we dressed him up like this homeless guy playing soccer. How many people have seen this maybe? Okay, there you go. I was sitting at a cafe table, kind of behind the scenes. He had a little earpiece in, and I was telling him what to do. You know, kick the ball here, do this, do that. We'll watch this one real quick. I made a short version, so luckily I think we'll have time. Can we turn up the volume a little bit? She regretted that. And this was just a random kid. Every single person here. This was all organic and not staged. People were really confused at what we were going to do with it, but...
Ah, bien. Muy bien. ¿Cómo te llamas?
Nicolás.
We had to have 8 bodyguards just to get him out of the crowd.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
So, same thing. You didn't see any headphones. You didn't see any logos. That video, since now, when we launched it, it did over, well, I'm going to go through time. Sorry. It did over 400 million views, 8,000 stores, bunch of cool stuff. Can't tell you. Lastly, it really is about being remarkable. It's not about creating something that's just good or great, but the word remarkable, it literally means it's worth making a remark about. It's worth talking about. We've always shared things via word of mouth. That hasn't changed. We just have so many new online platforms in which to be able to share. 8 reasons. Later today at 3 o'clock, we are doing a workshop in, I think, room number 2. So if you want to learn this in a little more detail and we'll be able to go through questions, feel free to come to that. 8 reasons that I found that really help us understand why people share. We share because it helps us connect. We share things that are useful. We share things that are educational. We share things that start a conversation. We share things that are funny. We share things to feel part of something bigger than ourselves. We share things that help define who we are. And we share things that strike an emotional chord. The last thing I'll leave with you is that platforms will always change. There will always be a new API. There will always be a new platform, someone who's brand new. The one thing that will not change is people. And so I promise you, if you learn to understand and listen to people, if you focus on them, I promise you that they will almost always return the favor. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.